My fellow journalist and political analyst Max Parry is joining us out of New York. Max, it's good to see you. Tell me what you think about this. You know, we have views of people as close to Mr. Trump as Boris Johnson. And right now we have Mr. Manuel Obrador in Mexico who says we have to wait. Do you really think that world leaders will basically risk congratulating a person who is not yet officially U.S. president?
Well, the Mexican president, they just signed a new trade agreement. So I think that, to save himself the tension that would occur if he were to, in Trump's view, prematurely acknowledge Biden or congratulate Biden's on his victory, that would cause some friction, inevitably in between the Trump administration and the Mexican government. In my view, the legal hurdle that the Trump camp faces is just seemingly insurmountable. While Bush versus Gore in 2000 does give him some precedent to take the matter to court, where the Florida recount in 2000 did reveal irregularities, but it was still overturned. I just have a hard time imagining that the Trump camp is going to be able to provide sufficient burden of proof of wrongdoing in this raft of lawsuits enough to change the outcome in any of these contested battleground states. Most of the legal experts are indicating that his efforts are unlikely to succeed. I think that the situation that the Mexican president finds himself in is a lot more awkward, given the signing of this recent trade agreement, than the NATO countries, the European allies, which strongly objected to a lot of Trump's policies,
right.
And even
Max, let me tell you this. Of course, the fact that, it is not officially announced, that's true. But, and I want you to walk us through and our viewers, to my experience, I haven't seen anywhere or, any of the past U.S. elections in which some major news outlets, because it would be not very prudent to jump to conclusions, but a channel like the CNN and interestingly a channel like the Fox News, they just held on to the previous results unless they made sure that Mr. Biden has actually become president. Walk us through. Has there been any instance where, or any hope for the Trump campaign that perhaps these litigations will get them anywhere, or perhaps world leaders who have congratulated Mr. Biden so far are making any mistakes? Is there any chance, or has it been the way so far that when these majors say somebody is president, then he will definitely walk that path?
Well, it's difficult to say. I just know that, seemingly every faction of the political establishment has come together in opposition to Trump. And, it's just unprecedented, for example, the way that in the middle of the speech where he was objecting to the election results and making the case that there was voter fraud and irregularities, the media in coordinated unison made the decision to not only fact check him live on air, but
right.
actually cut away. In addition to these, we've seen how these big Silicon Valley tech monopolies come together to censor his social media posts. So this is a convergence of different factions of the establishment and these soft power institutions, which is why, many people believe, and I honestly, I don't know about these specific instances of fraud that the Trump campaign is alleging, but it's very difficult not to have doubts about the legitimacy of this election when you see just how many how many factions in the establishment are coming together to what seems like trying to oust him. I haven't seen any solid evidence of this fraud yet, but you know, when things like this are happening, that are so unprecedented,
Sure.
it's hard not to have doubts about that. There's something like a slow motion coup d'état almost going on in the United
Right,
States here.
right. Max, one final question, and please give me a quick answer. You know, we have, of course, reactions by international leaders to the victory of Mr. Biden. How do you think America, because that's one of the mottos, that's one of the things that at least he said in his victory speech earlier tonight, that the meaning was that he's going to turn around the standing of America in the international arena. Now these reactions have come in. To what extent do you see that these leaders, not only these leaders, but all the world leaders, are going to work with the America of George Biden? Please be quickly.
Well, all I know is that a lot of Trump's foreign policy has diplomatically isolated the U.S. I certainly don't have to tell your network that. I mean, the Iran deal was pulling out of the Iran deal was very unpopular. Trump has made several other brash moves, like moving the U.S. embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. He's contested. At times suggested the breakup of NATO, or that NATO countries should pay more money for U.S. protection. So I think that I think that there's an indication that they see, like the U.S. political establishment, they see Trump as an insufficient manager of empire, and that a Biden victory means a return to having a more efficient steward at the head of U.S. imperialism.
What can I say, Max? Thank you very much. Let's just hope for a better world. That's Max Parry, journalist and political analyst, via Skype out of New York.